Sometimes you think you've already moved on, that everything has been left behind. Those noisy days no longer come up in conversations. That person's name no longer keeps you awake at night. But deep inside, something still feels heavy. Not sharp, just heavy. The one who hurt you may have moved on with their life. They laugh and talk. They begin new relationships. They forget the words that once shattered you. But you don't forget so easily. You don't bring it up, but you carry it with you. Resentment isn't as loud as people think. It isn't always explosive anger. Sometimes it's just a silence that lingers. An invisible distance when someone mentions their name. A very gentle closing of the heart. So gentle that even you don't notice it. It's like an anchor tied to your mind. The ship still moves. Life keeps going forward. But somewhere beneath the surface, something heavy is pulling you back. You're not sinking, but you're not truly free either. You tell yourself you've already forgiven. You don't want to think badly of them anymore. You don't want revenge. But whenever something similar happens, the old wound trembles again. A reaction that comes faster than it should. A defense that rises a little too strongly. There are evenings when you feel tired and don't know why. Work is fine. Family is fine. Life isn't falling apart. Yet inside, there's a quiet erosion, as if your energy is being drained by something unseen. Resentment requires maintenance. You have to replay the old story. You have to keep the old emotions alive. You have to continue believing you were treated unfairly. And all of that takes a great deal of strength. Sometimes you pretend you don't care. You say it doesn't affect you anymore. You even smile when the past is mentioned. But deep inside, a part of you is still unhealed. There is still a question unanswered. There is still a sadness that has never been named. Silent anger is the hardest kind to recognize. It doesn't make you shout. It doesn't make you break things. It just makes you a little colder, a little more indifferent, a little slower to trust. And slowly, you begin to build walls. Not to take revenge, just to protect yourself. But those walls don't only keep the old person out. They also keep new people out. They even keep out the chance to love again, fully. You may still live well, still succeed, still be admired by others. But in your most private moments, you know you're not truly light. There is still something that tightens your heart when you remember. Still a piece of memory you want to scroll past as quickly as possible. Holding on to resentment can feel like control. At least you know you were right. At least you didn't let it pass as if it never happened. But the price of always being right is that you must keep carrying the story. You must keep living with it. There are wounds that no longer bleed. They simply remain as a weight inside your chest. You grow so used to it that it begins to feel like part of your personality. A certain guardedness, a little withdrawal, a quiet layer of doubt. You are not weak. You are just tired. Tired of keeping up the image that you're fine. Tired of saying you're okay. Tired of being stronger than necessary just to hide what you haven't let go of. And maybe what is exhausting you now is no longer that person. No longer the words from years ago. No longer a specific betrayal or wound. But the very thing you are still holding in your hands. The thing you haven't dared to set down. The thing that pulls you back every time you try to move forward. Forgiveness is often misunderstood more than we realize. When people hear that word, they easily associate it with excessive yielding, with accepting defeat, with staying silent in the face of wrongdoing, and no one wants to become the weaker one in their own story. The natural instinct of a human being is self-protection. When we are hurt, we build a layer of defense. We hold tightly to that memory as evidence that we were treated unfairly, evidence that the pain was real. In many minds, forgiveness feels like erasing that evidence, like saying it didn't matter, like denying the emotions that once existed. And so we hold on to resentment as a way of affirming our own worth. Beneath that, there is also a fear about justice. If we forgive, will the other person still be held accountable? Will everything become too easy for them? Will the wrong be treated as if it never happened? That feeling makes us hesitate to let go. The ego speaks in those moments too. It wants to be proven right. It wants others to acknowledge that we were hurt. It wants a perfect apology. It wants everything rearranged in a way that feels fair to us. Resentment, then, creates an illusion of control. As long as we are still angry, the story feels like it is still in our hands. As long as we have not forgiven, we believe we still hold the right to judge. We feel we have not completely lost, not completely been abandoned in silence. But holding on to that control also means continuing to live in the old moment. We have to replay the story in our minds. Repeat every detail. Keep the original emotions alive so they do not fade. And quietly, that keeps us anchored in the past. Forgiveness is different. Forgiveness forces us to admit something difficult to say out loud, that we were affected, that we were hurt, that we were not as strong as we once thought. Many people are not afraid of letting someone else go. They are afraid of facing their own vulnerability, the part that once trusted too deeply, the part that once hoped too much, the part that placed its heart in the wrong hands. As long as we are angry, we still feel strong. Anger gives us energy. It gives us a hardened sense of momentum. It gives us a reason not to open our hearts again. It makes us feel as if we are standing above the wound. But when we forgive, that armor falls away. We have to look directly at the sorrow we never named. We have to admit that it truly hurt us. We have to admit that we cannot control everything, and that is a very fragile moment. Not everyone is ready to step into that fragility, because fragility feels like being breakable. It means there is no more hiding behind anger. It means standing exposed before the truth that we were once vulnerable. The difficulty of forgiveness is not in the act of letting go. It lies in the inner acceptance. Accepting that we were hurt and could not change it. Accepting that the past cannot be rewritten. Accepting that we are limited human beings. Holding on to resentment can make us feel powerful. Letting go can make us feel small. But it is in that smallness that we begin to be honest with ourselves. Honest about our emotions. Honest about our pain. And perhaps the hardest part is not releasing the other person. It is daring to look back and admit how deeply we were hurt. Daring to say that we were once weak. Daring to accept the imperfect part of our own story. Because only then does forgiveness truly begin from within. The sea before you is still wide and deep, as it has always been. The waves continue to wash steadily against the shore. The wind still brushes across the shoulders of the one standing there. On the outside, nothing has changed. But in that closed hand rests a small stone, a weight no one else can see. Resentment does not knock us down all at once. It does not cause a sharp, lasting pain. It is quieter than that. like holding a stone for a very long time. At first, it doesn't feel heavy. After many hours, the arm begins to ache. The heart is the same. When it holds on to something unresolved, it does not shatter immediately. It dries out little by little. It trembles less. It softens less. It believes a little less that goodness can return. You begin to look at new people with old eyes, not because they have done anything wrong, only because the old memory is still intact. You measure them by defensive standards. You test every word. You wait for a sign of betrayal, even when nothing has happened. That suspicion is not loud. It simply makes you keep your distance, hold back a part of yourself, not give fully, not trust fully, not open the door as wide as you once did. Defensive reactions become a habit. A careless sentence makes you tense. A brief silence makes you overthink. You no longer listen with calmness. You listen with the fear of the past repeating itself. The stone in your hand is not large, but when you hold it too long, your body begins to change. Your posture shifts. Your shoulders grow tighter. Your eyes grow more guarded. Your smile becomes less natural. Resentment dries the heart in ways that are hard to notice. You are no longer easily moved by kindness, no longer easily brought to tears by sincerity, no longer quick to believe a promise. Everything must pass through an invisible layer of scrutiny. There are moments when you realize you are overreacting, but you cannot seem to stop, because beneath that reaction lies an unhealed wound, a memory that has not been set down, a stone you still have not released from your hand. The saddest part is not what the other person did. It is that you slowly become like what you once disliked, colder, harder, less forgiving, closing yourself off out of fear of being hurt again. Resentment turns us into people who live in defense, not necessarily bad people, just people always ready to brace themselves, always waiting for the next blow, always imagining the worst before daring to hope for the good. The one standing before the sea still looks out into the distance, but the hand is still clenched around the stone. The sea does not ask you to hold it. The wind does not force you to keep it. Only the habit of holding on keeps you from letting go. The cost of resentment is not measured in a single moment. It is measured in the slow wearing away of your softness, in no longer daring to love with your whole heart, in no longer believing you deserve peace, in living more in vigilance than in freedom. No one is forcing you to release it. That stone belongs to you, but each day you hold it a little longer, your hand grows a little harder, your heart grows a little drier, and one day you may realize that what makes you heavy is no longer the memory itself, but the way you have carried it all these years. It is not the waves before you that make you weary. It is the small stone you have never set down. In the heavy afternoon light and dust, a body hangs upon rough wood. No more space to escape. No way left to defend himself. The wounds are still bleeding. Breath comes in broken waves of pain. And in that very moment, forgiveness is spoken. Father, forgive them. Not after everything has passed. Not after the wounds have closed. Not after justice has been carried out. But in the middle of mockery and betrayal. In the middle of pain, still raw. Forgiveness is often thought of as something that comes later, after the anger has faded, after we have grown strong enough, after we have regained our balance. But here, it appears at the height of suffering, in a reality that has not been softened at all. No conditions are set. No apology is demanded first. No promise of change is awaited. Only a prayer lifted toward heaven. A cry from a heart being torn open. A word that rises above the human instinct for revenge. In that moment, every definition of strength changes. Strength is no longer the ability to strike back, no longer proving oneself right, no longer delivering equal punishment. Strength becomes the ability to love while in pain, the ability to release when there is every reason to hold on. He does not wait for them to understand. He does not wait for their remorse. He does not wait for them to turn back. He forgives before they even realize what they have done. That is what makes those words so quietly overwhelming. The love in that moment is not based on worthiness. It does not weigh losses and gains. It does not demand fairness the way humans calculate it. It simply gives. It gives in the very place of deepest pain. The wounds have not been bandaged, yet the heart is open. The betrayal has not been repaired, yet the prayer for them has already risen. Something beyond ordinary logic has taken place. Forgiveness here is not a gentle feeling, not an easy decision. It is a choice against instinct, a choice not to let hatred write the final line, a choice not to let darkness have the last word. When we look at that moment, arguments grow quiet. Questions of who was right or wrong fade away. Only silence remains. A silence before a love that does not calculate. Before forgiveness spoken from the lips of one who is suffering. He does not forgive because they deserve it. He forgives because love does not wait for worthiness. That love does not wait for favorable conditions. It does not wait for wounds to heal. It does not wait for everything to be set right. That changes the way we see forgiveness. It is not a reward for someone else, not proof that they have corrected their wrong. It is freedom chosen in the middle of unchanged circumstances. It is light lit while the darkness is still thick. The moment on the cross does not erase the pain. It does not deny the reality of injustice, but it reveals something else. That love can exist alongside suffering. That forgiveness can be born in the middle of hurt. And when we reflect on that, the heart slows down. The inner arguments soften. The self-protective reasoning grows smaller. Only a quiet question remains. Can we learn to love like that? In the midst of everything that has happened, those words are still there. Not loud, not forcing, just opening another door for humanity. A door where forgiveness does not begin after healing, but begins while the heart is still aching. Many people think forgiveness means reopening an old door, as if letting go means going back, as if speaking forgiveness erases every boundary. But forgiveness is not that simple. It is not a return. It is an inner decision. Forgiveness does not mean you must immediately trust again. Trust takes time to build, and once it has been broken, it takes more than words to restore. Letting go of resentment is not the same as handing back your full trust. Those two things are not the same. Forgiveness is not returning to a toxic relationship. You are not required to place yourself where you will be hurt again. No one is asked to endure more in order to prove their mercy. Forgiveness does not cancel wisdom. It does not deny the need for distance when distance is necessary. Forgiveness is not forgetting. The memory remains. The lesson remains. The experience is still etched into your mind. Forgetting is sometimes impossible, but releasing resentment is something you can learn. What truly changes when you forgive is the inner current. The past no longer controls the present. An old story no longer repeats itself whenever something similar happens. You no longer react from wounded instinct. You begin to respond from a new calmness. Forgiveness is stopping someone from renting space in your mind, stopping them from appearing in sudden thoughts, stopping an old memory from governing today's emotions, stopping yesterday's pain from writing the next chapter of your life. When you have not forgiven, the other person still has influence, even in their absence. They may have gone away, but their shadow remains. In the way you doubt, in the way you guard yourself, in the way you fear repeating the past. Letting go does not change what happened, but it changes how you carry it. You no longer clutch it tightly in your heart. You no longer retell it with the same old emotion. You no longer live to prove that you were right. There is a very quiet relief when you truly forgive. Not because they apologized, not because everything was repaired, but because you no longer need to hold on to that anger. You no longer need it to protect yourself. Forgiveness is a choice of freedom. Not freedom for them to escape consequences, not freedom for them to continue doing wrong, but freedom for your heart to step out of the loop of the past. Freedom from replaying the same story in your mind. There are people who never come back. There are apologies that are never spoken. If you wait for everything to be perfect before letting go, you may wait a very long time. And during that time, you are the one carrying the weight. Forgiveness is setting down the stone you have held for too long, not throwing it at someone else, not hiding it away, simply opening your hand so that the weight is no longer resting in your palm. When you do that, the past no longer defines you. It becomes part of your story, but not the whole of who you are. You are no longer bound to the role of victim. You begin to step out of the old frame. They may not change. They may never realize anything. But the change happens within you. You grow less tense, less guarded, less pulled backward whenever the memory rises. And at some point, you understand something very clearly. Forgiveness does not set them free. Forgiveness sets you free, not to forget, not to return, but to move forward without being chained to what has already passed. Forgiving others is hard. Forgiving yourself is even harder, because no one knows what you have done the way you do. No one hears the silent conversations in your mind each night. No one sees your eyes when you look back at your own past. Guilt has a way of lingering. It does not need anyone else to remind you. You remind yourself enough. A wrong decision, a word that hurt someone, an impulsive choice that changed everything. Regret often comes late. It appears when you are finally mature enough to understand what you once did. When you look back and wish you had known better, wish you had been calmer, wish you had not been so selfish. But time does not turn back. That chapter of the story has already been written, and here you are, in the present, carrying that heaviness, carrying an older version of yourself you no longer want to be. There are people who easily forgive you. They say it is over. They no longer blame you, but you still blame yourself. Still wonder why you were that way. The feeling of "I don't deserve to be loved" begins to slip in quietly. No one says it directly to you, but you convince yourself that if others knew the whole truth, they would see you differently. They would not cherish you the way they do now. You try to live better. You try to make things right. You do more good than before. Yet deep inside, a voice still whispers that all the good you do is not enough to make up for the past. Forgiving others can sometimes feel easier because you can stand slightly above the situation. You can be generous. You can be merciful. But with yourself, you are the strictest judge. You remember every detail. You remember the look in the eyes of the one you hurt. You remember the moment you realized you were wrong. And you do not easily erase that memory. You hold on to it like a quiet punishment. The image of the merciful father in the parable remains, the father who watches from afar, not holding a rod, not holding a list of accusations, only waiting for his child to return. That child had wasted the inheritance, had chosen wrongly, had lived recklessly, had pushed himself out of the house. But when he came back, what awaited him was not humiliation. It was an embrace, a new robe, a feast, eyes that did not bring up the past, a love not based on performance. We often believe we must pay enough before we can be forgiven, suffer enough, torment ourselves enough, prove we have changed enough. Only then do we dare to believe we deserve to be loved again. But Jesus did not die only for other people. He did not open the way only for those you find easy to forgive. He also stepped into the darkest part within you, the part you hide, the part you are ashamed of, the part you think no one should ever know. When you think about that, your heartbeat slows. If that love is vast enough to cover the whole world, then it is vast enough for your mistakes too. Not to deny the wrong, but to say that the wrong is not your final definition. Forgiving yourself does not mean forgetting what you have done. It means accepting that you have grown from it, that you are no longer the person you once were, that you are allowed to move forward without dragging chains of self-condemnation behind you. Perhaps the hardest part is not asking others for forgiveness, but believing that you, too, are forgiven, believing that you can still be loved, believing that the past no longer has the right to define your worth. And when that belief begins to take shape, a deeper healing truly begins. One day, you will realize you are breathing more deeply, not because life has suddenly become easier, but because something inside you has grown lighter, something that once took up so much space, something that once made you tired even though no one could see it. That relief is not loud. There is no dramatic moment, no applause, just a morning when you wake up and you do not think of the old story the moment your eyes open. The memories are still there, but they no longer replay like a film stuck on repeat. They pass more gently. They no longer carry the same wave of emotion. They no longer force you to pause in the middle of the day because of a sudden thought. Sometimes someone mentions that person's name. You hear it. Your heart no longer tightens. Your throat no longer closes. Your eyes no longer look away. It is simply a name, nothing more. You are not trying to forget. You are not pretending you were never hurt. But that story no longer defines you. It has become a chapter that is closed. No need to tear it out. Just no need to turn back to it. Your reactions begin to change as well. Not so extreme. Not so quick to defend, not so ready to build walls over a small sign. You are calmer in the face of things that once made you uneasy. Freedom after letting go is not erasing everything. It is the ability to stand still without trembling when the past is mentioned. The ability to look forward without being pulled backward. The ability to open your heart without carrying old armor. You begin to notice you have more energy, more space in your mind, more room for new things, for small joys, for fragile hope. The stone you once held is no longer in your hand. You may not even remember the exact moment you set it down. You only know that your hand now opens more naturally. Your body is no longer as tense as before. Your steps no longer feel as heavy. That freedom does not turn you into someone else. It brings you back to yourself, to a gentler version of you, to a softer heart, to eyes no longer clouded by the fog of resentment. You do not need to announce to anyone that you have forgiven. No need to prove anything. The change happens within, quietly, but truly. There will still be days when memories return, still moments when old emotions brush against you, but they no longer take hold of you. You can feel them, and then let them pass. Freedom is not the absence of memory. It is the absence of chains tied to what you remember. No longer allowing an old chapter to write the new pages. No longer living in the shadow of a story that has ended. And if today you have not reached that place, that is all right. Forgiveness is not a switch that flips in a single day. It is a slow journey. A journey that requires time and courage. Perhaps today you cannot forgive yet. But if you begin with one small prayer, help me to want to forgive, that is enough. Maybe in that very small moment, the journey of healing has already begun.